Okay, so let's get started. First of all, welcome everyone. We're really excited to do this event. It's a first for us at Sugarlift. We are much more comfortable and much more used to having events and exhibitions in person. But as we are all adapting our lives to these times and spending more time on screens and on Zoom, we're finding a way where we can still get together, still celebrate art and creativity and the relationships that we have with one another, explore interesting ideas. And we thought that this would be a really cool format to do so. My name is Wright Harvey. I'm the founder of Sugarlift. If you're not familiar with Sugarlift, we're a platform for artists. We help people collect work directly from artist studios. And from the very beginning in 2014, our mantra has been about supporting artists' careers and helping them build more sustainable careers as visual artists. Given these times, I just want to say that all of us, our hearts go out to all of you. And if you've been affected or if you've had family members affected by COVID, part of the inspiration for this show was as soon as things started looking pretty bad, we noticed that a lot of artists jumped into action. We saw artists with the artist support pledge, or Dina Brodsky's Trees for Life, or the Nico Art Challenge, and a lot of artists started finding ways to donate their work and raise money to help frontline medical workers. Really noble cause. But at the same time, we realized that life didn't get any easier for artists today. So this show, Biophilia, is also an artist benefit. All the work in the show is available to be purchased and collected. It's all amazing work. And 100% of what you spend goes to support that artist. Artists need our support. They need us to help put gas in their tank and help them take one more step forward in what they create as artists. One housekeeping note, we're gonna walk through a 3D gallery. I'm driving, I'm gonna try to keep it as smooth as possible. We're gonna spend about 30 to 40 minutes walking through the space and speaking with a handful of artists in the show. There are 40 artists in the show, so unfortunately we can't get to every artist and every piece, but we're gonna try to jam in as much to 30 or 40 minutes as we can. Given the number of people who are on this call, I think we had 400 something people RSVP. I don't know how many we have on. Everyone's on mute. But if you want to ask a question, please feel free to put it in the comments, share it with everybody, and then at the end, we're going to try to get to as many questions as we can. Again, all the work is available for purchase. We'll send you a link after the show so you can check it out, and it's all in support of the artists in this show. So the concept of this show, Biophilia, was also born out of the times that we live in. We're all spending much more time inside than we had previously, missing being outdoors. I think it's a feeling we get every spring anyway. But we wanted to showcase, as humans, our love for nature, our need to be outside, our need to be around life and organic things to recharge, particularly when we're feeling trapped inside. I wrote down a quote by John Ruskin, who is an 18th century artist and critic, where he said, "Nature is painting for us day after day pictures of infinite beauty." And we really wanted this show to showcase the work that does capture that beauty by some of the best artists that we know of today. I definitely did not do this single-handedly. In fact, I probably only contributed a very small fraction to this show. Thanks to Hannah Foster, who's my partner at Sugarlift, and also the co-curator of this show, Dina Brodsky. Dina, I don't know if you're unmuted at this point. If you don't know Dina, she's a contemporary realist, minimalist painter. And when I think of her work, I think of these very gem-like miniature landscapes, uh, amazing ballpoint trees, little bird watercolors. She can do it all. She's also a master of Instagram. And I think she told me she was a little nervous speaking to this many people on Zoom, which is ironic because every Instagram she sends out goes to about 2 million people.
Um, yeah, so you're right. I'm actually more nervous at the opening of this online show than I ever have been, than I've ever been in a real life show. But right, Hannah, thank you so much for kind of letting me co-curate this with you, or letting me basically pick my favorite artists, and that you guys later contacted and did all the actual work. And thank you everyone for being here.
Well, we're going to walk through the space, and I have to say, it was a lot of work putting this together, but we didn't have to lug any giant paintings around or ship things around the country. So from that perspective, it was a little bit easier. We're going to start with the cover piece. This is a painting by Alex Merritt. He's actually driving across the country right now after moving out of his studio and moving back to Arizona. When we first thought of the concept of this show, this particular painting popped into my mind. Hannah and I saw it last November in a studio in Jersey City. It's an enormous painting. It's about 6.5 feet tall by 9 feet wide. And I fell in love with just the kind of the all over composition. I have some detail shots of this piece. This gives you a sense of the scale in which Alex works. Really textured, layered painting. And immediately started texting my wife, Calvine, the dimensions and images to see if we had a wall big enough in our apartment, which we did not. But what really struck me was the story that Alex told when we were looking at this painting. He actually moved to Arizona with his wife, who has a condition that requires multiple brain surgeries. And the first surgery, it was a question of whether or not she would even survive the first surgery. It was a very stressful time for both of them. And Alex told us that the two of them would go on walks on this hillside path surrounded by these sunflowers. And it was the only place where they could find respite from the stress. And he started the painting around the same time. And he sent this to me since he couldn't attend. He said, "There's this constant sound of the wind blowing through the trees that really stuck with me. And I remember thinking that I wish we could just stay there in that moment forever." As we got closer to the date of her first surgery, I got more scared about the unknown we were facing and was working on it more obsessively, almost like I was trying to hold on to that day. And for me, when I look at art and paintings like this, it's beyond just the colors and the composition and what it is. Obviously, this is a landscape, but it is all encompassing. It sort of brings you in. It captures the emotion that obviously Alex was going through. And I think it's the perfect cover lot for this show. Now, Dina, how do you respond to non-miniature paintings like this?
I mostly envy them, actually. So just because all I do is things that just because for me a 4x4 inch paintings is big, I actually respond really strongly to work that is the opposite of my own, because I wish I could do it. And I know that I can't. And I don't know if it's a lot of you guys are artists, but I feel like for me, my own art is, I love doing it, but it's actually the least magical because I know how it's done. I know every ingredient in the recipe. So when I see something that is kind of big and looser and more visceral, I love it. And also kind of what he said, what he wrote you. I think all of us know that feeling of just wishing that we could keep a day where just for a moment we're just for a moment, we're not scared, and we're sure that we're exactly where we're supposed to be, no matter how scary the day afterwards is.
Yeah, really well said. And I like how you acknowledge that a lot of visual artists do have their magic tricks, some of which they will disclose and some that will go to their grave. Okay, so excuse me while I sort of try to navigate here. I'm not a gamer. As you can tell, I would have been killed by now if this was a gunfight. We're going to move over to the first wall.
All right, that's going to be the after party. When we turn the gallery into a video game with a lot of violence.
I stopped playing at GoldenEye. I don't even know what the games are these days. But I'm going to make my way up to this pair right here. And the reason why we paired these is, one, they look great together. They hang very well together. But these were created by two artists who are a couple and who also announced on Mother's Day that they are expecting. So Alonsa and James, I don't know if you're unmuted.
Woo!
Yeah.
Gallery.
There's three of us here. Nice.
Well, guys, thank you so much for being part of the show. Alonsa, maybe we could start with you. So much of your work involves nature, food, light as an influence. It'd be great to hear sort of the root of that.
Yes. Yeah, well, a lot of my work is inspired by nature. I'm from Chile, and I grew up, luckily, surrounded by nature. I grew up in Ecuador, in a rainforest. And all my life I've been in different places with like a lot of nature around me. I never painted so much about nature until I came to New York, though. Like, it was here when I like started painting the first time, some still lifes and fruits, and I really enjoyed it. And then I started having that, missing, and thinking more about nature maybe while being in New York. And I realized that I love painting it, like painting nature too. Like, I think the quote that you said at the beginning is really true. It's nature. I mean, for me, I make art because I think I can represent beauty through it. And if I have to choose, it's hard to say what beauty means for me, because words are not enough. But if I had to pick up images that represent beauty, it would be probably 95% of them from nature, either if it's a human body or a plant or a flower or fruit. Yeah, it's really also a thing. I don't know, like, we spend so much time painting, like 8 hours a day or sometimes more. So why not to be looking at something that we enjoy and that we think is beautiful? So I try to spend my time doing that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the paintings that you're showing. The one in the left is the one that I'm working on right now. I'm finishing that piece. It's a commission. The other one in the right is a self-portrait that I painted in 2014, I believe. One of my first ones from this series.
And Alonsa, James, I have a question for both of you.
Yeah.
What are you guys working on right now? Kind of, what's your quarantine project? I've been others than the baby, which
Yeah.
There's no word for the
we
baby.
have been cooking a lot. We've been cooking many things, bread and trying all types of different things. And I've actually been doing a lot of writing, so I haven't been doing as much painting as I usually do. I've been writing a book for, I guess, more than a year now. So I'm kind of far into the process, and I'm enjoying it. And I really don't get to paint as much as I'd like, but I get to sit next to Alonsa, and she paints all day. So I kind of live vicariously through her at the moment. Yeah.
Give me advices.
yeah, critical advices.
Yeah.
And
but his pieces that are in the show are actually from last year, from this same spot that we are now. We're in Maryland in an artist residency in West Nottingham Academy, and your paintings are from here.
Yeah.
All of those.
Let's
so
switch over to James. Alonsa, I had one more set of pictures for you that show, I always think of your palette as not just the paint, but also the market.
Yes.
If you haven't seen what's in the show for you to collect yet, she has these amazing fruit portraits that I think you posted on Instagram the other day, and they sold immediately, so they're no longer available. But keep an eye out, or I think maybe you're even taking some commissions in the short term.
Yeah, so I just posted that also because I feel so bad the opening is happening now and all of them are gone, so I'm accepting commissions. I've got some already, so I'm getting them. I'm gonna close on this Sunday, so whoever wants to order, they have to just either email me or DM me, and it will be the same price. And I can do whatever fruit they want, like if they like a weird one, even better for me if I never painted before.
And,
so.
and by the way, everyone should do this. I have a pomegranate portrait by Alonsa, and it makes me it makes me happy every single day.
That's so nice.
You know what, Alonsa? Actually, except today when I caught the baby trying to take it, like basically sitting on the couch and trying to steal it off the wall, and that was when your painting brought anything other than joy.
That's so nice. That's the desire of fruits, what they cost. That's funny. And I have a beautiful Dina Brodsky painting. We traded, so I have one of those precious circular landscape that I love. It's like my treasure. So I'm really happy and proud of our trade. So happy.
Excellent. Well, I got an orange fruit portrait for Calvin for Christmas last year, and I love it.
Yeah. So
I also want to give a shout out to two of them were purchased by other artists in the show. Sophia Foreman and Nicholas V. Sanchez, artist supporting artists. So we love to see them.
Awesome. Thank you, Nico.
Thank
and Sadia. We love you.
James, we'll switch over to your work. Obviously a very, very different take. And I know this is a long series that you've been working on for some time. So I'd love for you to give everyone sort of the overview, the direction of the series.
Sure. So these two paintings are kind of snapshots from my latest series, which I haven't even put up on my website yet. I'm still kind of working on it, and it's called Paths. And it's about migration. The series is primarily about the paths that people walk on and where it takes them, and kind of, I just think paths in general are very symbolic just for the human condition, and I imagine people walking long distances to get to safe places, because there's just millions of people around the world who are displaced because of war. And so my work primarily focuses on war, and this series was kind of like it felt like a lighter expression of what I had been thinking about, and kind of happier in a way, even though it kind of deals with maybe not so happy themes. So the series itself is just like kind of paths and things that grow near it, and yeah.
And obviously very optimistic that life fights back.
Yeah, and that's kind of and when I first started this, I didn't really have, maybe like many artists, I didn't have an idea where it was going, and then I just saw so much beauty in grass, and just kind of how it just, no matter how many times you step on it, it comes back, it grows back. And even the more we tread on it, even streets, which are basically paths that we build, they also decay and degrade, and eventually nature will come back and overtake it. And I just kind of thought that was a hopeful expression for human beings as well, that that we can persevere and solve big problems like climate change and war and all of those things.
Well, they're beautiful pieces. Thank you both for being in this show.
Yeah, thank you, Wright, and thank you, Sugarlift, and thank you everyone who's purchased pieces.
Awesome.
This is just a really beautiful thing to do for artists, especially in this time when things are uncertain for everybody, and especially for artists, I think.
Well, thank you guys again. We again won't be able to talk to every piece. We have these Siberian Tigers by Jen Gennari. This little gem-like painting by Michael Weiss is one of my favorites in the show. We're going to move to Katie Whipple, who did this beautiful falling bougainvillea painting. Katie, I don't know if you're unmuted.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me?
We can. Excellent. Thank you for being in the show. It was nice to meet you on Zoom for the first time about half an hour ago.
Yeah, it's so great to meet you via technology, and thanks so much for having me. This is great. What a fun way to spend a Thursday evening.
Absolutely. Well, I fell in love with your work immediately. For me, I had a personal connection to the subject matter when I saw your angel's trumpets. My mom is a big gardener. When I grew up in Florida, she still is a big gardener, and we had bougainvillea and angel's trumpets. But you capture them so beautifully. It's not like a traditional still life. And I'd love to ask, one, what inspired you to pursue sort of floral still life as a subject matter, but also, how do you innovate in this area? How do still lives have been painted since the Renaissance. How do you do something new and interesting in that vein, like you are doing?
Right. Well, thank you so much. Those are such kind words. Thank you. I'll answer the first question first. There's my dog. That's Theo hiding. So I started painting. I trained at the Grand Central Atelier in figure painting, and always thought I was going to be a portrait painter. Always wanted to be a portrait painter. And when I was living in Italy, actually on a residency, I just got really enchanted by all the Italian gardens because they're just everywhere. And I was on the days off from painting master copies in museums, I would just paint in the Italian gardens. And I just kind of got addicted to lemon trees and all these things that I didn't grow up around. And when I came back to New York, I was working on some portrait commissions and things, and I kind of realized it maybe wasn't for me, and I just started painting flowers. And then I became addicted, and I started reading about flowers, and yeah, it just became an obsession. So 5 years later, I'm still here, obsessed with flowers. And in terms of the innovation, I guess, I don't really think of my works as super innovative. I just
maybe innovative, maybe almost more like mannerist.
Oh, thanks. That's a really cool compliment. So when I was living in Italy, I was super inspired by the Renaissance. I totally fell in love with the Renaissance, early Renaissance, especially like Fra Angelico and Fra Filippo Lippi and those Botticelli, those guys. And so I think some of the like flatness in my work and a lot of the color, and sometimes I just steal compositions directly. Like the Angel's Trumpets behind me I was kind of trying to make a Giotto painting. So I wanted the floating flowers, which the Bougainvillea piece kind of is along that same vein. I was just thinking about Giotto a lot last year with these pieces. So I guess I try, when I first started painting flowers, I tried to set them up, like do a traditional still life. And the flowers would just die before I could finish it. I would spend all this time setting up the arrangement, and then I would paint one flower, and then all the other ones would have moved or wilted or done something different, and then I would just have to start again. So I just decided to start painting one flower at a time on my paintings, and then that kind of, sorry, go ahead.
On that, for those of us who are not painters, the obvious question is, well, why don't you just take a picture? And so can you talk about the difference between painting from life and painting from an image?
Sure. Yeah. For me, part of the joy of painting flowers for me is just having them in my studio with me all the time and being in the presence. And I just personally, I'm not very motivated working from photos. So if I'm painting from my computer screen or something, I'll just kind of walk away from my easel a lot more easy. Like, it's just not as inspiring for me personally in my process. So yeah, so I just, it keeps me motivated to have something in front of me that's has a lifespan. So I'm like, okay, I have 2 days to paint this flower. So I have to like stay at the easel, get my work done. Yeah, and then I just wanted to have a higher resolution, as you can see, and especially with this selection of flowers that's up on the screen. And actually these poppies are behind me right here. But yeah, so I like to have I like to paint pretty detailed. So it just takes a long time. So the pink poppy, for example, I spent 3 days on that, 3 or 4 days on that flower. So like, I don't know, 15 hours probably or more, 20 hours. So yeah, that's not very practical for setting up a big arrangement and working from life for the whole thing. So I keep everything in the fridge and I paint them one at a time, and I build compositions. I'll do like little sketches or compositional studies, work things out. And then, so for this sunflower painting, some of those were in a vase, and then the one at the that's kind of at the bottom was like attached to, you know, like had a floral tube on it and was like hanging behind the vase for the composition. And then I painted the vase after the flowers were finished or were dead. So it's a little bit kind of pieced together process, working process.
Well, they're beautiful paintings. I know Fra Angelico would be happy to hang these on his walls.
Oh, well, that's the dream. Thank you.
Katie, thank you again for being in the show. And you have a solo show coming up.
I do, yes, at Arcadia Contemporary Gallery in Pasadena, California. So that's what this is behind me. I've been hoarding works for a year, working on that. It's in September.
Excellent. Whoops. Oh, I clipped through the wall. Hold on.
Once again, not a gamer.
Okay, yeah. We're back, everybody. Again, we can't go through everything. Amazing work by Melanie Vogt. Lynn Bogus is a new artist in the show. He has 4 paintings. Amazing. Gareth is an artist who I was not aware of before this show. I think Gareth is listening in, but we're just going to quickly talk about these. You know, sometimes art doesn't need to be some great masterpiece that an artist has worked on for decades. These are, I think, one sitting paintings or close, and they're just really sweet, honest takes on his environment. Picks up on the light, the color, the contrast just beautifully. All 3 of these sold before the opening, so I texted Gareth yesterday, and he added the only other 2 paintings he has to the inventory. So if you love his work, make sure to move quickly. I think I have pictures of them here.
So actually, I really wanted one of Gareth's. So Gareth, if you're listening in, your work is, I discovered his sketchbooks on Instagram a few months ago and was just completely blown away. So if you guys, you know, all of his work will sell out in the next 5 seconds, but you guys should also check out his sketchbooks online because they're mind-blowingly beautiful.
We have Alyssa Monks in the show. I want to zoom in on this piece by Zaria Foreman, who is an artist who I've admired for a long time. She's known for these beautiful blue pastel drawings of icebergs. Her work is very much a dialogue on documenting climate change. And she doesn't just do it from her studio. She has been on all sorts of icebreakers and flown over Antarctica, and really proselytizes what impact we can have on the climate, and also how that relates to nature. I grabbed a couple screenshots because she really goes big and does these amazing immersive. Again, these are drawings that just are breathtaking. So just wanted to quickly stop on her work. I'm trying to be mindful of everyone's time, so we're going to try to speed up a little bit. Esteban, I love this painting, but we got to keep moving, man. Okay, let's move to Luhan. Now, Luhan has 3 works in the show, and I think that these are the only printmaking pieces. Luhan, are you?
Yeah, I'm here.
You unmuted? Thank you so much for being in the show.
No, yeah, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be being amongst such awesome art.
Why does one create indirectly through printmaking?
I think I have this like romantic notion of leaving an impression. Just the idea of printmaking is, you know, there's a lot of force and then an image comes out. So I think that was my first attraction to it. It's a very sort of aggressive and physical form of art making. All the plants.
I captured you in your natural habitat.
Yeah.
Studio and in the greenhouse.
Yeah. So the series, I guess the series that that is in the show started mid-February, not too long ago, and is all locked up in the studio right now, and is sort of using all the blocks that I had accumulated throughout the past 2 years living in New York, of, you know, little snippets that I steal walking down the street, or plants that I grow to love. And I was feeling really lonely at the time and needing sort of someone to hug, honestly. And I was like, let me make a series of prints honoring that. And I got sort of like a mad chemist trying to make my own ink. So all of these are made with my own ink. I went up to Kramer and I bought the deepest, darkest black that they sold, because it's sort of how I feel about part of my soul. And all of the blocks are inked up and then ran through a press until the impression is gone. And a couple of the blocks eventually cracked and broke. And I haven't been able to finish the series because I was sort of a lot, you know, with all of this going on, the studio locked up and I don't have access to the press. So now I'm living like vicariously through the images of all of them, and I'm counting down the days until I have access to the press and all of the blocks to sort of like finish the full circle of them, I guess.
And so this is a series that you're going to continue to work on when you can get back into the studio. And when do you really feel like a series is complete?
You know, my first instinct to answer that is until all the blocks crack and break and they just become scraps of wood, because I have, you know, I'm very attached emotionally to sort of all of the objects that I make in terms of like the wood blocks. But I'm not really sure, since all of this happened, it's taken on a whole new, you know, light. Like we can't ever really hug each other again for a long time. So I don't know, I have this like overwhelming wave of sadness when I look at them. So I don't know if I'll truly be able to continue it, because I started it with a very different mindset, and now, you know, yeah, this whole pandemic. So I'm not really sure. Yeah, but first answer is until I break all of the blocks under pressure, lightheartedly.
Well, I know he's not in the show, but I think Nick Holliber will take your broken pieces of wood.
Yeah.
And we're so glad to have you in the show. We're so glad that you're feeling better.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. That was scary. I don't wish it upon my worst enemy.
Let's see. Again, we've got to pass over just some masterpieces. This is a new painting by Marcelo Del Dosi, one of my favorites by him. He's just producing, he always has made amazing work. He's really on all cylinders right now. Paul Heaston, just like an amazing drawer. Paco Pomet. I really want to spend a lot of time with these pieces. Hollis and Alex Konevsky did not deserve a 1-second mention, or David. I'm really sorry, guys. But we made our way over to Eileen. Do we have Eileen on the line? Eileen Murphy.
Here, I am unmuted. Oh my goodness.
Excellent. Eileen, thank you for being in the show. I know you were top of Dina's list for sure. I think you were the first artist that she mentioned.
Oh my goodness, that's beyond flattering. She's also at the top of my list, so it's only fair, I guess. Yeah, no, this is an honor, and I can't believe it feels, I mean, time is so strange for all of us right now, but I feel like you and Hannah really made this happen in 5 minutes, basically, so I couldn't be more impressed.
I actually think that they probably spent like 800 hours working on it and stayed up all night for a week.
Well, they both look very hale, so that's all the more impressive because you both look good.
You know, they're just attractive people. They always look good.
It helps. It does help. That's not something.
Where did you end up being quarantined? Are you somewhere where you can at least paint landscapes?
Well, I'm still in Brooklyn. I didn't leave, and I am in such an incredibly fortunate situation because I'm the only painter in New York who lives about 5 blocks from her studio, so I can walk here. The building where my studio is owned by one woman. It's been studios since 1979. A lot of people left, so it's not a huge building, and there are only a couple of us coming. And it's filled with makers who immediately made PPE for everyone. And my next door neighbor 3D printed molds for everyone to like open the faucet with. So we all have our own molds to touch the sink and the common spaces. So it's very strange because I've been able to do what I've always done, which is cope through working, which is a real gift right now. And it's not a situation that a lot of people are able to be in. So I feel incredibly, incredibly lucky. Like I'm sitting in my workspace right now. This is my normal workspace. So it's funny because everything is swirling around me, being in the frying pan here, but there's been a consistency for me, which is super fortunate.
So I had the fortune to watch you paint at I guess something that Wright and Hannah organized a year ago. Do you guys remember Paint Prospect Park? Or little did we know that we would never be able to do anything like that ever again. But so watching Eileen paint is such a treat. So hopefully that's a video, right? It's a video, but I feel like it's
hopefully you see it as a video.
it's like a little blurry.
It's since it's from Instagram, it's tiny and low resolution, but that's actually, speaking of things that are alchemical, that's one of the things that I kind of like to do is demystify the process a little bit. Because once you know what to do before the next thing you have to do, it's really not maybe as complicated as the end result looks once you know how to break down the image. So that's something that's kind of important to me. So I appreciate you showing the videos, and this painting's in the show, and this is the entire process of making it.
So how long did that actually take you without the time lapse speeding it up?
I really try to keep it to an hour with stuff like that because the rest of my work takes so long that these little studies are an exercise in brevity for me. So it's really important for me to remember that I can move through things with some alacrity and not just belabor the point over and over again, which is what my natural inclination is.
Which is probably why I like your work so much. That is my natural
I like yours.
And everyone should, amongst other things, follow Eileen on Instagram and watch her paint, because it's incredibly kind of, it's totally hypnotic and mesmerizing.
That's very sweet. And no one has anything else to do right now, so you know, it'll fill your time.
Well, Eileen, thank you for being part of the show. And for a quick fire question, studio or plein air?
Studio.
That's
I mean,
a good question.
you know, stuff gets in your paint outside. I mean, I do it. I like it. But if you let me have a cup of coffee, be in my studio, listen to Brian Lair, that I'm just going to be, that's what I want to do. I want to slow it down a little bit.
Excellent. Part of the magic of doing a virtual show is we actually hung Melanie's painting twice. We rehung it on another wall. I didn't mention this, but we're going to share the link to this 3D space so anyone can walk through it and anyone can spend time with it. Beautiful work on paper by Luke Baggett and Lauren Matsumoto. We're going to do one more check-in, and then we're going to open up for a little Q&A. Again, if you want to ask a question, please type it into the comments below. This is an artist, Nicholas O'Leary, who we're showing for the first time. Just incredible plein air, mainly trees, also does amazing portraits. Lisa Lebowski, Guno Park, and Valerie Larco. It's a crime to skip over you so quickly. I ask for your forgiveness. We'll go back to my man, Nicholas V. Sanchez. Huge fan of his work. I'm a collector, and he has a different take on nature. Obviously, growing up in Michigan on a farm. Nico, is a farm nature?
I didn't grow up on a farm. I grew up in a very rural part of Michigan. But
potato.
What's that? Potato. Is farm nature?
While you think about that answer, I'll just intro you a little bit.
Okay.
Nico is really well known for his ballpoint drawings and portraits. He's also an incredible painter at scale. This is one of my favorite paintings by him. His work explores heritage and lineage, family migrating from Mexico to Michigan, growing up in rural Michigan before moving to New York. And every piece, I think, is a masterpiece. This is a ballpoint pen drawing. The white on the nose of the horse and the eye of the sheen is the color of the paper. There's no white ink. So Dina, you talk about artist tricks and magic tricks. I feel like there's a lot of magic tricks in this piece.
Actually, Nico is one of the artists who I can't, well, actually, who sometimes draws very, very tiny things, but I can't dissect. I've tried to figure out Nico's magic tricks, and I've tried to imitate Nico's magic tricks actually for years with little, Nico, what you do is complete, you're a wizard.
Wow, I guess I don't have to say anything else. Just it's magic. And I'm out.
Well, Nico, tell us how, how does, you obviously paint a lot of living things and nature. And when you look for inspiration in new work, can you walk us through the process, maybe without disclosing any of the magic? Or disclose.
That's a drawing, a ballpoint pen drawing of my niece and one of her hens. No, I like I mentioned, I grew up in a rural part of Michigan, and like Alonsa mentioned earlier, I didn't realize where I came from until I moved to New York, and I had context for. And I imagine a lot of artists who come to New York, especially academy students who come from different places that are very different from a very busy place like New York, kind of learned like where they actually come from when when they leave that place. So I think seeing where I came from with a new set of eyes has really let me to investigate who I am and where I'm from through nature. So, you know, you have the horses, you have family, and yeah.
And so you created a few new pieces for this show. Obviously, you've been in your studio for what seems like an eternity.
Yeah, that's one of my, that's a ballpoint pen drawing. It's a nice line drawing that I love line drawing. Something that I learned and focused on while I was in grad school, and just kind of different from the other kind of ballpoint pen drawing that I like to do. But yeah, that's one of my plants. That guy right there.
Looks just like it.
Raw nature inside.
Well, thank you, Nico. It's an honor to have you in the show. As well as,
thank you so much.
I'm just totally blown away by what the artists contributed to this show. Every single artist is amazing, and it's great to get to hang the work so that they can converse with one another, and as an excuse for all of us to get together, even if it's on a screen. We are way over time. It's about 6:50, so we'll leave a couple minutes. If anyone has any questions, type them into the comments. And Hannah, are we getting crickets, or do we have some good questions out there?
We have a lot of great questions. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I've got one for Alonsa from Kim, who wants to know, what do the paintings of fruit mean symbolically? Is there some sort of deeper meaning tied to those images? And also specifically, if that's changed at all or heightened at all with the expectation of your first child. So let me find you, Alonsa, so I can unmute you to answer the question. There we go. Alonsa, are you there?
She's still muted, I think.
I don't know. Now can you hear me?
There we go.
Yeah. Yes. All right. Thank you for that question, Kim. So, well, my fruit portraits symbolically, they don't really, I don't think about them as a meaning, like as a symbol, like each of them individually. Of course, fruits have different symbols through art history and in still lives and even in religion. But for me, I don't think about them so much as symbolic like that. But I do see them as something that we see, like that is universal for everyone. That even though it is something that we've never seen before, a fruit that we've never seen before, in one way or another, it feels familiar to us. And at the same time, it's something that I feel a lot of people take for granted. It's just a fruit, you eat it and you're happy with it. But it brings so much meaning from, like, for human beings, and it has so much details and little precious things, the patterns of them, depending on how you cut them, horizontally or vertical. Right, like better, like when I ask for, like, do you want the fruit like cut this way or that way, because it has different shapes and it evokes different things too. So yeah, mainly it's just about beauty, and the beauty that you can find in little things, and also like how desirable they are, and the fact that I can paint them and make some of them up. And the paint itself, or the oil itself, it resembles the juiciness of them and the texture. So that's really, like, I don't know, it gives me a lot of pleasure to make them. Yeah, and about the baby, I don't know. I don't even feel so pregnant yet. So I haven't thought about, like, the meaning of my paintings together with the baby. I guess when the belly starts growing more and I feel, it's kicking and things like that, I'll feel more a connection with that. So far, I just hope that my pregnancy is still good, so I can keep painting all the time as I do. I know when the baby's born, it won't be like that, but I'll do my best. So, you guys will have me accountable. So I can keep working.
Beautifully said. Thank you, Alonsa. Thank you, Kim, for the
Pleasure.
question.
Yeah, and actually that was a two-part. There's another one for James, which, while you guys are on the same phone line, Kim wants to know also, are there specific places that your path paintings are tied to, James? Are there specific locations that you chose to paint?
There isn't any specific location, but the ones that are in the show are actually inspired from the residency that I was on last year in West Nottingham Academy, which is in Maryland, and Alonsa's actually on it right now. So those are inspired from here. But when I made those paintings, I'm thinking kind of more universal spaces, and so no, they're not really inspired by any one particular space.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, thanks. Hannah, why don't we do 2 more quick questions?
Okay, all right. This is maybe less of a specific question, more of a request that we maybe zoom out and go look at Maud White's work more closely. Do you think you could drive that right?
Oh yeah, here we go.
So Maud is actually here, and I'd love to unmute her so she can talk about it a little bit better than we can, probably. Maud, can you hear us?
Yeah, hi.
Hey.
That's
Thank
beautiful.
you so much.
It's the cut paper.
Seeing everyone's work. I'm just so blown away and inspired. Thank you.
Yeah, so could you tell us a little bit about how I know that these are paper and a little bit hard to see in the virtual space, but that's actually where you see the black coming through the piece would be the background of the frame. So if you could talk a little bit about the tool you use to cut that paper and kind of what that process is like.
Yes, so everything that's white is one piece of paper that I've cut with a number 11 blade, so like an X-Acto knife. And so yeah, one piece of paper, and it's just right now set on black mat board where I'm taking the photo. But usually when pieces are sold, they're usually framed between glass, so they cast a shadow on the wall.
Seeing work in virtual space usually doesn't do it justice, but you absolutely need to see Maud's work in life. You also do a really great job of showing it on Instagram, so check out Maud White's Instagram account too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maud, for being in the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm so honored. Thank you.
I think we're going to have to wrap it up here. We're at the top of the hour. I just want to say really quickly, thank you everyone who attended. This was a fun experiment for us, putting this show together. It came out just amazingly well. I want to thank Hannah, my partner in crime, who does much more to make these happen than I feel like I'm doing. So thank you, Hannah. Dina for co-curating. And I want to just mention all the artists in the show: Alex Konevsky, Alex Merritt, Alonsa Guevara, Alyssa Monks, Amanda Scuglia, Andrew Hines, Annie Wildley, David Morales Hernandez, Diana Corvell, Dina we mentioned, Eileen Murphy, Emily Person, Esteban Ocampo, Gareth Jones, Guno Park, Hollish Heischmer, Jacob Brooks, James Razko, Jelly Green, Jennifer Gennari, Joe Packett, Kathleen Dunphy, Katie Whipple, Lauren Matsumoto, take a breath for air, Lisa Lebowski, Luis Colan, Luhan Perez, Luke Baggett, Lynn Bogus, Marcelo Daldosi, Maud White, Melanie Vogt, Michael Weiss, Naomi Reese, Nicholas O'Leary, Nicholas V. Sanchez, Paco Pomet, Paul Heaston, Tad Retz, Tiffany Bosnick, Valerie Larco, and Zaria Foreman. You all make our lives so much richer with the amazing art that you create. Thank you for being a part of this show. I'll say one more thing. If you want to check out the work in the show, again, it's all available. 100% goes to support the artists that made it. Go to sugarlift.com/biophilia and you'll find a link to view the art. Follow us on Instagram at Sugarlift, and if you have any questions about anything at all or just want to hang out, email hello@sugarlift.com. Thank you all for being here, and have a good night.